Bonus time, everybody. This time we're going to work on body movement that is characteristic to West Coast swing. So the first idea that we have is that West Coast swing is what we call a flat line dance. So if I had a sternum or a laser on my sternum, wherever that is pointing, I don't go above it and I don't go below it. I stay right at that flat line. And you probably have noticed that as we've been dancing through the first 3 DVDs. It's very smooth, very flat. So as I walk, there's no up and down. A lot of dances have up and down, like waltz has rise and fall, right? East Coast swing has what we call a lilt, which is a little bit of a bounce. But if you were to put that lilt into your West Coast, walk, walk, triple step, triple step. See how it just doesn't have that groovy, smooth feel that we're going for.
In fact, you could almost take that one step further and practice. Sometimes we'll have our students do this, and let's put a book, or if you're really adventurous, a glass of wine on top of your head. And when you do that walking both forward and backward, even through your triples, you want to envision that as being very smooth. So it's a flat line dance, essentially meaning the lack of any specific distinguishing motion characteristic that you might have in a lot of your other dances. What we do have is a very smooth action and a completed leg action that helps to give it that look, along with that stretch that we talked about all the way back in disc 1 through the anchor, really emphasizing those points.
So the leg action is the next big thing. Some dances have hip action, like cha-cha, right? You got a lot of hips going on. But West Coast swing, not as much. West Coast swing is really about the legs, and we're working on the hips and the knees and the ankles being very relaxed so that we can articulate through our legs very well. So we're going to work on this for a little bit here. We're going to do one of our favorite drills, which is called the orange juice drill.
We call it that because Kristen comes up with names for everything. And the idea is taking a big old orange and place it under the heel of your foot. So you touch down with the toe, and then imagine that, so because you've got an orange there or something, whatever works for you, imagine there's resistance, okay? You don't want that to push you up, nor do you want it to incomplete your step, but you want to really press through that heel as though there were some sort of a slowing resistance to the ankle. One of the things that I like to think about with this motion is a constant velocity of the heel to the floor. So as the foot is going down to the floor at velocity of whatever it happens to be, when the toe touches, the foot just doesn't immediately collapse. The heel continues to the floor with resistance at a constant velocity until the heel touches the floor with a straight leg. The straightening action of the leg creates a touching. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're putting weight on the heel. There's weight on the heel whenever you're rolling through the heel for a forward step. There's weight on the heel when you're rolling through the heel for a backward step. And certainly there's weight behind the heel whenever you're stretching, leverage, and an anchor. But that doesn't mean you put weight on the heel in every step. That actually would slow down your body action. So in your triple steps, if you lift that foot, and you can go ahead and do this along with us.
Yep, let's practice this.
Press the toe to the ground, leave the heel up. Now as you straighten the knee, imagine there's resistance through that leg and press that all the way down.
As you pick up that next knee and heel. And notice one leg is straight, the standing weighted leg is straight. It doesn't have to be locked, but it's straight. And the unweighted leg is bent all the way up onto the tippy toe. Let's switch back, switch as we change, and switch as we change. And practice this. This is another good toothbrushing drill. Right? You got to do this. Maybe you're at work and you're standing at the copy machine making copies, right? This is the perfect place to practice this.
When you're doing this, you want all of your energy to absorb through the legs, not up and down in the body, various other places like that.
Now, notice as we do a sugar push here, notice the leg action of our little orange juice drill. So we've got walk, walk, 3 and 4. We work at 5 and 6.
In particular, you'll notice that action in the triple steps. Your quick rhythms are the primary place that you'll want to be using this. In the slow rhythms, remember in the earlier disc we talked about leading with the knee and switching and rolling through that heel. Now for the leaders, because we start nearly every pattern with some version of going backward, we actually will do just the opposite of that. So that's another layer here. Where leaders, I'm going to roll backward through that heel, and if we were to just walk backward without really thinking too much about it, it's a very natural action. What we don't typically want to do is have the foot way behind us and then the body have to catch up later. That makes the body late for the beat. Okay? But what we do is roll through that heel very naturally when we're rocking backward, and you'll notice that that action causes the leg, standing leg, to go straight. The knee always bends to take a step forward or backward, but it lands straight. And in West Coast Swing, a good general rule of thumb, and there are styling options that can go any direction from this, but a good general rule of thumb to start with is you want both of your legs straight when you land your slows, and you want one of your legs straight whenever you're landing your quick rhythm.
And that's a great rule. That holds consistent for the ladies as well. So ladies, as I work through your sugar push, let's kind of take a look at what the legs look like. As I start with my knee and then my center, I've got that little heel. But notice once I get to my foot, both legs are pretty much straight. Doesn't mean they're locked, but they're pretty much straight. Then I soften the knee to take the next heel. Then I draw the knee forward, but now I'm ready for my orange juice. 3 and. Then I step back on my 4, but remember the rule Monty just stated, count 4 is a slow, so both legs are straight again. Then as I do my anchor step, 5 and 6, this is where I'll settle back in. Both legs could be straight, or you could relax the front knee. That's a styling preference in the anchor, and either one is okay. Now, common things that we see out socially that we're trying to avoid, there's 3 potential things. The first one is that the legs are really too stiff, so you kind of have like a little bit of a penguin look, right? Like you're a little penguin, right?
One of the things that makes the penguin look is tilting the body to move the leg rather than relaxing the knee to move through the leg.
A little bit too stiff, don't really want that. On the total other end of the spectrum is if the legs are always bent. If the legs are always bent, and it doesn't matter if you're the guy or the girl, see how it just doesn't look finished? The movement just looks incomplete, almost sloppy in a way. So as I finish through that one straight leg, it starts to give that length and that finished line, and that's what we're looking for.
Remembering, as we talked about in the first disc, to have your hip going away from your partner, sometimes depending on your movement, along with that sideways swinging action that may frequently go in there with it. So if we put all of that together in our movement, I'm rolling through my foot backward as she does the knee lead and steps forward over it. Okay, I come right together. Because I'm coming together, I'm going to do that orange juice thing on 2, 3, and. Now we're reversing this. I'm going to lead with the knee and switch to the heel. The followers are not necessarily going to roll off the heel. It's a common styling thing for the follower to point that toe as you step off of it, and it's really only one backward step. That's a choice. But then we have that orange juice, making sure you're getting the straight legs. Stretch away from each other before you start forward.
And the third thing that we do want to avoid is in the older version of West Coast Swing, it was very hippie. So the ladies would, as they would do their triple, they would work the hips, and then they would go back and they would work the hips, and they had all of this motion. Now, it's not to say that that's really wrong, it's just not really the style that we're after now. And if there were a slow song that really made you feel that way, you could dance your hips more if you want to. But what we do now more is keeping the hips just a little bit more on the subtle side, and it's really more about the legs in this dance. So let's go through, and Actually, there's one more thing that we wanted to touch on very quickly. I'm going to have us go the other way, and that's just our free arm. Now, arms in West Coast Swing, they're tricky. They're not like other dances where you've got these strong dynamic arm lines that you're trying to hit. Now what we want is for the arms to be very subtle, for them to almost blend into the body, and for them to not really stand out. And that's kind of tricky to do. So the first arm line, and the one that the men usually use, and I use a lot as well, is to have the arm just kind of round, kind of alive, maybe breathy is a word.
The opposite of that, leaders, and what typically happens in the very beginning is people will have it just basically a dead arm, where that arm just kind of gets forgotten about and it's just kind of dangling there. We don't want that look. But then the next layer that oftentimes people will work on is to take that arm and really stiffen it or lock it into somewhere and again kind of forget about it. So that arm, as she said, we can bring it alive with just a little bit of shape and energy, and then just allow it to breathe with the body a little bit, and it becomes almost an invisible or non-entity because it blends in.
To make the hand look relaxed, oftentimes we'll think of if you're holding a pair of sunglasses or holding a baby bird, you wouldn't clench it with tension. It would just be a relaxed fist. So notice as we do our sugar push, as we take the hand, it just comes up, and then as we release it, it just gently falls back to our side. And it has that little curve to it. It ends up looking very natural. Now, another option for the ladies is to just relax and put the forearm parallel to the floor with the hand just relaxed. You don't want to have that hand tense again. So as I do that one a lot, you'll notice that I just pick up the hand and I just bring it right back to my side.
Now you'll notice when she does that arm parallel to the floor, you can either have the thumb somewhat up, in which case your wrist could really just pretty much be relaxed, or you can turn the hand down, in which case you actually have to hold just a little bit of connection in that wrist in order to not create its own distracting point. Okay, so you can either relax it with the thumb up, or you can turn it palm down and hold a little bit of connection in there, tone in there if you will, but not tension in there.
Let's practice all the movements that we've learned in this DVD number 3, but let's pay attention to number 1, our flat line, number 2, our leg action, and then number 3, the arm. Let's start with a sugar push. 5, 6, ready, and walk, walk, triple step, basket whip, walk, walk, triple step, walk, walk, sugar push, triple step, basic whip. Find that relaxed arm, work your leg, sugar push. Let's go into the right side pass with the hand change. Work the legs, reverse whip. Let's do it again. Sugar push, walk, walk, triple step, basket whip. Work the legs. Sugar push, relax the arm to the side, regular whip.
As I go into a different whip.
And let's do a sugar push, and let's do a regular whip. And notice that arm and those legs. Notice at the end of every anchor, we're looking for that stretch.
Also, whenever we do a position that has us switching the active arm, you'll notice the same rule just applies to the other arm. So whichever arm is free, unless it is working toward connection with your partner, needs to have some sort of energy in it just to look a little bit alive without distracting itself.
So we're at the end of DVD 3, and we've given you so much information, but it's everything that you need to know to make this dance start to look like West Coast Swing. Now, are you going to be able to do everything just right off the bat? You're going to have to practice some, and that's okay. It's going to be fun while you're practicing, but you will be able to do this. Everybody can do this.
And of course, lots and lots of practice out social dancing West Coast Swing every chance you get. is really the best thing you can do to start being able to put one layer at a time in muscle memory. Most of us, our brain doesn't really work very well to put multiple layers in. Pick one thing of our technical details to work on and practice that for a little while, maybe all night to several songs, whatever it takes. Layer that in, get some others. So even though we've given you a tremendous foundation here, there is still so much more in West Coast Swing. There are tens of thousands of patterns, and yet nearly every pattern that you do will be some decorated, adjusted, or extended version of one of these basics that we've given you. So in some of our later DVD series, we'll of course go through lots more options on these things, but that should be everything you need to get going and have a great time doing it.
Thank you for joining us. Coming up next in our series, we have Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Spinning West Coast Swing Patterns. So we're going to work on your spins in the set coming up. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Have a great time practicing.